Hi, I'm September, the Fertile Chef. Today we're going to talk about sauerkraut, how to ferment a basic vegetable, make a basic sauerkraut. So we have this head of cabbage here, and cabbage is so great for you because it's high in vitamin C, it's high in tons of different vitamins and minerals, and so it's really going to increase your nutrients, which increases your fertility. And we'll talk a little bit in a minute about how it actually helps to increase nutrient absorption as well. So we're going to take this head of cabbage and we're going to peel this outer layer off and just kind of toss that. And then we are very simply going to slice into this head of cabbage. So I've got my chef's knife, and if you don't know how to hold a chef's knife, you want to wrap these 3 fingers around the blade, the handle, and then these 2 fingers go on either side of the blade like this. That's actually the proper way to hold a chef's knife. So we're going to just shred this nice and fine, and there's several different ways obviously to do this. You can do it in a food processor and shred it that way. It's a little bit easier, faster, more convenient, that kind of stuff. However, it does tend to smash the cabbage a little bit, and so it loses a bit of its nutrition. So I prefer to just simply use a knife, but do it in the way that works for you. So we're just going to really thin. The thinner you slice the cabbage, so my pieces end up looking something like this. So the thinner that you slice the cabbage, the better it's going to absorb the salt and release its nutrients, and then it's also going to turn out softer, like a better sauerkraut. If you cut it into bigger pieces, it's going to end up a bit crunchier. So again, it's a preference thing. Either way is very good for you, and either way works. When you're using a knife, you never want to push down, you saw. It's a back and forth motion, it's a slicing motion, so don't ever try to force it down. Okay, we're going to stop there, and then I'm going to show you how to rub the salt in, pull the juices out, and get your sauerkraut ready. Sauerkraut is so simple because all it is the cabbage and the salt. So this is pink Himalayan sea salt. And the reason that we're using this is because it's got a much lower sodium content. So when you use a processed white salt, you're getting about 98% sodium and about 2% chloride. When you take something like this is about 86% sodium, so significantly less sodium, and then the rest of it is made up in other trace minerals, all kinds of different trace minerals that are absolutely essential for your health. So we're just going to sprinkle this onto the cabbage, and then you are just going to massage this cabbage, and it takes a little bit of time, but it's very zen for me. I actually enjoy doing it because it's very relaxing, and it's cool. It's like a science project. My kids like watching this. And you'll see in a minute how this nice, firm, crisp cabbage sort of goes soft and becomes a little bit translucent, and all of the juices just start to flow out of it. So when you're making sauerkraut, you really want to use the juice from the cabbage. You don't actually want to add water unless you have to. If you have to, that's okay. But as long as you're massaging it enough, then you shouldn't have to. So the reason that we like sauerkraut, and the reason that we want to eat lots and lots of sauerkraut, and if you don't actually have a taste preference for sauerkraut, keep in mind that you can ferment any vegetable out there. You can ferment peppers, you can ferment really anything. Carrots, celery, anything that you can think of can be fermented. And this is the process. And what happens is that this salt, as the bacteria start to grow in here, and these are very friendly gut flora bacteria that grow in here, as they start to grow, it forms a lactic acid. And lactic acid kills anything, basically. Any sort of pathogens, anything negative. So this actually making sauerkraut, fermenting vegetables, is safer than canning, because with canning you can introduce some bad pathogens and end up with botulism and things like that. When you ferment vegetables, it's just not possible. So I actually read somebody from the National Institute of Health did a study, and he basically said that fermenting vegetables is the safest way to eat them. And what it does is this sauerkraut, as it gets into your system, as it goes through your digestive tract, it actually wakes up your villi. So your villi are those tiny, tiny little hairs that live inside of your digestive tract. And that's the purpose of the villi, is to, as the food is going down the digestive tract, it's to pull the nutrients out of the food and get it into your bloodstream, which is a good thing, obviously. Many people in our society don't have healthy villi. It lies flat, it is kind of covered up, it's not very healthy, and so a lot of people just simply don't absorb a lot of nutrients, which is obviously not a good thing, especially if you're trying to make a baby, because if you don't have enough vitamin C in your body, how are you going to give it to your baby that you're creating? And it all comes from you. Same thing with something like magnesium. If you don't have enough magnesium to keep your body going, or if you're barely hanging on, then you're not going to have enough to give to a baby. So you can see that this is starting to become soft and a little bit translucent. So we're almost there. I'm going to massage it for just another minute, and then we'll shove it into the jar. And when you're shoving it into the jar, the most important thing to remember is that you want as little air space in there as possible. So when I say shove, I really mean shove. So the purpose of the massaging is to break down the cell walls, and that's what we're doing. It's breaking down those cell walls, getting the salt inside of the cabbage so that it can work its magic. And a really, really good thing to add to sauerkraut is caraway seeds. It makes it incredibly good. And if you think that you don't like sauerkraut, I would say experiment. You can always go to the store and buy in the refrigerator section. Don't buy it on the shelf, but in the refrigerator section you can buy different types of cabbage and just experiment and see what you like, because it can be flavored all kinds of different ways. So now we're going to take this and we're going to start shoving. And this jar might actually be a little bit big. You'd be amazed at how much cabbage you can fit into a jar. You always want to use glass when you're fermenting anything. You never want to ferment in plastic. So glass is best. And this jar is actually too big for this little bit of cabbage that I did. So after the video, I'll finish this up and actually shove the rest of it in there. But yeah, you just really, really pack it down in there. Get rid of as much airspace as possible. And what you'll notice is that as I'm pushing down, I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but the liquid is coming up. So one of the most important things to remember when you're fermenting is that it has to be submersed in the liquid. If anything is above the liquid, it's going to mold. So you want to keep it down underneath the liquid. And what you can do is you can buy weights, glass weights that you can put on top so that they keep the food nice and heavy. Typically those are cut to the size of a wide mouth mason jar. So, and you'll see that there's still a little bit of liquid in here, so I will take this and just pour that in here. And then again, after I'm done filming, what I'll do is finish filling this jar all the way up to the top, all the way up to about here, and then we'll put something on top to keep it weighted down so that it stays submerged in the water. And then in about a month, it takes about a month, that's when our sauerkraut will be ready, and it will be incredibly delicious and healing and very good for your fertility. So I'm September with 4 Months to Fertile. Thank you.